You are listening to Fika with Vicky on United Public Radio, 107.7 and 105.3 from New Orleans.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fika with our guest author today. There we go, just taking care of the tech. With our guest author today, and I didn't get a chance to check pronunciation, so I'm going to go with Mark NeCamp Jr. Is that right, Mark?
It's in NeCamp, so you're close.
Okay.
It's an unusual last name, so it happens all the time. Don't worry.
I said the D. I promised myself. See, I have it X'd out because I wrote it, and then I was like, all right. Not only is Mark a author, but he is also a poet, spiritual alchemist, and modern-day student and practitioner of the art who teaches classes using magic as a tool for personal growth. And I'm positive he would be good at that because after reading this week's focus book, Energy Magic, it's clear to me that Mark knows what he's talking about. Great, perfect cue. Not only does he know what he's talking about, but he knows how to share it. Direct, concise, and with just enough experiential anecdotes to make things interesting. Energy Magic provides a powerful push to finding what you need, eliminating frustration before you even get started, and opens pathways to a more peaceful existence within yourself and the people around us. I even learned the definition of abracadabra, which is I will create as I speak. And since we do a lot of speaking on Fika, I think it's important for us to think about what we are creating today. Thank you, Mark, for helping us to find the best energy within ourselves and helping us to share it with others. Welcome to Fika.
Thank you so much, Vicky. And to be quite honest, everything exceeds expectations. I wrote this book thinking if I help one person, even a dozen people, I've done my job and the rest is gravy. To be perfectly frank, it's just an honor to be of service.
Well, I think it's terrific because there are things, as you mentioned in the book, that when you get to a more advanced book or whatever, that are just everybody expects you to know. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, yeah, but what is that? Looking through a million books. It's like the recipe book without having to go through the story before getting to the chocolate chip cookie recipe. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you have just enough story to keep us interested, and that is fantastic. Heidi says hello, Vicky and Mark, and she's listening from Boulder, Colorado. Well, welcome, Heidi. Thank you.
Hi, Heidi.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you before we get talking and once again lose everybody. Oh, and I also wanted to mention, but it's great for someone who has the experience because you forget and you can just go back and check it out and re-practice. We all forget the things that help us the most, I think, from time to time. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do is have you briefly describe what energy magic is all about before I go on and on about it, and perhaps a definition of energy as you use it in the book.
Sure, absolutely. So my background, among many other things I've studied, is with energy work, as in I'm a Reiki practitioner. I was taught how to do chakra healing. And so I really had that as kind of like a background when I first started becoming involved in like paganism and magic and the occult. So I always had that kind of in the back of my head and the back of my mind. So even before I wrote this book, and just in my normal practice, even when I started, I would cycle my energy. And what I mean by energy is I'm talking about, well, if you're a martial artist, and if you study martial arts, you're talking about ki or chi. And, it's a life force energy that's within us, this bio energy that kind of binds everything within us. Now, that being said, I'm sure everyone out here has done this or felt this. You ever go into a room where it's felt kind of weird, it's felt kind of off? Usually someone argued or something. Almost everyone has. So, people say, gosh, the energy's off. Or they'll see a person that's kind of negative or kind of rubs in the wrong way. Like, oh, their energy's off or they have bad vibes. So when I talk about energy, I'm talking about this invisible life force that's within all of us and all things. It's in the food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe. It's in, rocks and crystals and herbs. It's in everything. And what I discovered is that magic is really the medium through which magic happens.
And the energy, you can work with that to create those moments in a more
absolutely. So magic is, energy really, even though it's invisible, we can still feel it. So that's kind of one of the reasons I like to have like an energy-based practice. And I always kind of keep energy magic is kind of a thing in my toolbox, for the simple reason that, I don't want to just like light a candle. I don't want to just do a spell. I want to like feel the energy. I want to actually get my hands, dirty. Just like if I'm gardening, I want to get my hands in the dirt, metaphorically speaking here. So that being said, with the kind of main focus of the book is how to do magic by manipulating energy directly. So to kind of go on a long story, I think I mentioned in the book, but I was helping someone who was a victim of an attack from Mexican sorcery, from Mexican folk magic. And what happened is I said, "Hey, Mark, I need your help. Can you help me out here? I've been cursed. I feel bad. My energy's off. I feel fatigue. I feel like I want to kill myself. Like all these horrible things. I keep having accidents." And I didn't look at it as a practitioner. I looked at it first as like an energy healer. So I had them laid out on their back, and I was able to feel their energy, and I felt like this giant like wedge, like literally in their aura, in their energetic field. And I said, that's weird that I can manipulate something from Mexican sorcery just with like energy work. So that really made me rethink everything. And I realized that whether you're doing hoodoo, you're doing folk magic, doing traditional witchcraft, and we can argue what the definition of traditional witchcraft is all day. That's probably another podcast.
That's another show. Yeah.
Right? But no matter what you're doing magically, it has an energetic effect. So whether it's a love spell, a wealth spell, luck, healing, protection, it all has the same energetic effect. So I said,
and it's all connected.
It's all connected. Everything's connected. So, now I'll go back to that in a second. But with that, I said, hey, what if I just do magic as an energy healer, and I cut out the middleman of all these traditions and all these tools, and I just work it directly? How would it look like if I started doing magic just by working with energy? Almost as if you're like a wizard in like a fantasy novel, and they're like shooting stuff out. Like, how can I do that? And so I developed a practice of how to do that. And then I kind of reached the point in my magical education, if you will, that I was thinking, I need to get all this stuff out of my head so I can not only realize what I already know, but I want to even more so realize what I don't know, so that I can write this book, get it out of my head, and then I can learn and practice some other things that I've put on the back burner for years.
Well, and I think that's important, is that everybody comes to their practice through a long line of twists and turns, and they incorporate everything that's good about all those things in their own practice. So it doesn't, I don't know, I find that interesting. I find following the trail and all of this together interesting. And some people might complain there's a lack of purity or not separation between them, but I don't think that's important, because energy connects everybody. And maybe I just got myself in trouble, but I think that energy connects everybody across the planet, the universe.
Absolutely. If we want to think about it even from a scientific paradigm, there's this thing called the Big Bang. There is like one origin point of the universe. Now, we could argue whether that's a cyclical creation. That's a whole different podcast. But we can say that there's this Big Bang. There's a single origin point in space and time. And if we have the same origin point, well, then everything that comes from that origin point, well, it's all connected because it comes from the same source. It's literally connected not only in space and time, but the fact that it came from the same source. And we can talk about theoretical physics. We can talk about such things as quantum entanglement. And I'd like to take that a step further and say that we're all energetically entangled. And that actually follows through into a lot of my magical ethics. I've studied quite a few martial arts, and I have a very martial arts sort of ethics. Like, I will, especially from Aikido, which is fantastic. And, if I have to be in a difficult magical situation, I'm going to use the least amount of force possible. I'm going to cause the least amount of harm. I'm going to resolve it as quickly as possible. And that's because we are all connected. What I'm doing to someone else, I am doing to myself. I kind of use the metaphor of the pool. Like if you're in a public swimming pool and we're all in the same pool. We're in all the same energetic pool. We're all sharing, connected with the same energy. And you know what? At the end of the day, I don't want to go pee in the pool. I don't want to be in that.
Because you experience it as well.
Right. I don't want to get pee in the pool. I don't want you to get pee in the pool. So I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure no one's peeing in the pool, and we can just have a good time, enjoy, have laughs, and grow, and just enjoy this mad experiment called life.
And I think also this is important for people to understand that even if they are not big believers in the different fields, that this can be worked on as an energy base, as a scientific base.
Absolutely.
Because that has been, even my nephew who teaches science, and I'm not sure how our DNA split, will tell you it all has energy. So
absolutely. And I was at a book signing at a Barnes and Noble in Huntsville, Alabama, where there's a huge, aerospace industry. And one of the people that bought my book was a literal rocket scientist. And I was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. We're talking, of course, like, the Arthur C. Clarke definition that, magic is just science we don't understand yet. And I had him do the first exercise in the book. I had him do the energy ball exercise where you make an energy ball. And he's like, huh, okay. I could kind of see the gears turning there. So I do like to think about that as well, that yes, there's all sorts of incredible things you can do with magic, and people claim even more incredible things. But that being said, I really do think that in maybe 20, 50, 100 years, there'll be more tools to measure energy, and people will even create possibly even machines that can do what we do, and it will just like skyrocket, and our evolution will just go to a whole different level.
And I always think of, when you do this, Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Because Fireball.
Right.
So I just envision him. Now you say, as I was reading, that you put the work into workshops. Okay, you make people work, and that's important. We don't get anything immediately. So I want to know, is it possible to get something immediately without doing all that work? Not that I would cheat, but people want it. No. I mean, it's important.
Absolutely. So for a simple thing, it can be something really simple. So I used to do kids workshops, and if I was doing kids workshops, I teach them a very special spell. Okay. And it's a very ancient technique that's been passed down to me through the Ascended Masters. And I will share it with your audience. And it goes like this. Gather your energy. And you kind of harness your energy. And then you go like this, like that, and then like that. It was a smiley face. So, and then kids do that, and they're like, oh my God, I feel like better. I mean, it's simple and it's silly. But at the same time, almost every time I've done that with kids, it's like an immediate reaction. And so I would say that, yes, you can get immediate results, but they don't have to be huge. They don't have to be like this grand thing, like, manna or money is like going to fall out of the sky. But that being said,
it would be nice.
It is possible. And I'm going to explain why everyone isn't like a billionaire right now. So part of that, I'll be really brief with this story because there's so much more to touch on. But I was helping someone who had a gift of communicating with spirits. Her mother just died. She felt her mother. She could talk to her mother, but it wasn't working consistently. And something was just off. It was like kind of blocked. And so we were talking. I must have sat with her for like an hour, kind of like doing kind of like my Sherlock Holmes trick of like trying to get to the root of the matter. And it came out that she was afraid of death, that she was afraid of her own death. And her anxiety about death blocked her natural gifts. So that made me realize, man, one of the things that blocks us all the time from our magic work is our own anxiety. And that's why it's so important in my book and many other books. I could use like Modern Magic by Donald Michael Craig is a great example. You have to do all these relaxation and these meditation exercises, because if you don't, it's almost like all your thoughts and anxiety are like these wires, okay? And they're just going all over in all these crazy directions. But when you ground, when you meditate, when you center, when you relax, all those things streamline, they relax, and then things can flow. So that's one thing. That's the reason like there's a lot of people get instant gratification with magic. The second thing is we're always doing magic. It's not just that we do magic, we are magic. Magic is just a way for us to externalize things so that we can do it, we can feel it, we can work with it, because it's hard to work with all these things internally. So that being said, if we're always doing magic, that means we're always manifesting. And I know a bunch of the New Age schools of New Age thought will agree with me. So if that's true, then that means we have to do a lot of personal work in order to manifest what we truly desire and for our magic to work more effectively. So for example, I really do believe that sometimes we manifest out of our own trauma. In fact, most of the time we're manifesting out of our trauma. So that's why I think it's important to get over our trauma so we can embrace the lives that we're meant to live and do, what we're here for, our life's purpose. That being said, if we have all these blocks energetically, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, these are things that we're going to have to deal with. We're going to have to do the hard work of going through those dark tunnels, those dark nights of the soul, feeling those emotions that were blocked, or even more so that we numb ourselves to just to survive day to day. Because with magic, and I can go through the metaphysics of it, and it's in the book, but in a very real way, our magic is tied to our emotions. And like I said earlier, I don't know if I actually said it, but energy and your ability to do magic is really tied to your intention, your attention, and your emotion. And without feeling things, we can't do magic. This is why women are actually better practitioners than men in the Western society, to be quite frank, because women are socialized to be okay with their emotions. And, a lot of the schools that most, cisgendered, normal men will do, they're more ceremonial because they're working with their mind as opposed to working with their emotions. So I would argue very strongly, if the more we can just get really cool about a lot of stuff real fast, we can become better practitioners by being more emotionally intelligent and working with our emotions.
And that takes one step at a time.
Absolutely.
It doesn't, it's for example, I have always had perfectionist issues. Doing a live radio broadcast over the last 2 years, what a week. I'm just like, hey, baby, it's done. It's in the can. I used to shake. Now I'm like, it happens. So taking action with an intention to get over something is magic. I mean, basically, that was magic. I'm going to do this and take whatever energy I need to do it. And
right.
Yes,
agreed.
of course, we can make changes.
Every act is a magic.
So we talk about before we do magic grounding.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is such an important part of everything in life. And as you wrote and I read, I realized that knowing who we are is one of the important parts of grounding, because if we don't know who we are, we're going to fly like that paper bag in the Katy Perry the bag in the Katy Perry thing. Mm-hmm. So I know you gave a lot of techniques in the book, but once again, an instant grounding to help me.
Yeah, of course. So the instant grounding I do, everyone's gonna laugh. You ever see the movie Die Hard?
Of course. But is it a Christmas movie? Anyways.
It's a Christmas movie. I don't care what Bruce Willis says. It's a Christmas movie. Happy Christmas. Anyway, so in Die Hard, when he gets into his hotel room, he's had a long flight, he's stressed, and he takes off his socks and shoes and socks, and he makes fists with his toes. And that's actually a technique I do all the time. I'll make fists with my toes. And what I'm doing is I'm bringing my mental attention to my feet. And that helps me remember my connection to the earth. And of course, I go down the rabbit hole to my connection to the core of the earth. And just by making those fists with my toes, it's a nice mental trigger for me to really connect down the earth and get in my body and just really connect to it. I mean, that's a lot of what grounding is. Magic happens within your body. I mean, even when you're doing astral work and you're doing work with meditation, you're using your body as a tool to get into trance. You're not getting away from your body. Getting away from your body to try to do magic is where you go into the realm of disassociation and fantasy. So I'll also use a metaphor of like speaking. So I've done, obviously I do a bit of public speaking, teaching. And one thing I've noticed is because I have experience, I will go ahead and I'll read the room first. And it's very important to know my audience. If I have an audience of people who are like practitioners for like a dozen years, I can launch into the fun stuff pretty quick. If I'm in a room of like people who have no idea what I'm talking about, like I did a workshop on exorcism at a horror convention in Georgia not too long ago. And these people had no idea about magic, but I was able to like look at their frame of reference. I looked at like what they did. A lot of them were paranormal investigators. I used, because I read the room and I understood what
I was going to say that.
Make, then I was able to have a really good conversation, and I was literally able to teach them by the end. Some guy's doing paranormal investigation for 10 years, who's in his 60s, how to create portals to banish spirits, okay, in a 90-minute workshop. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm like the coolest teacher. I'm sure there's teachers that are better than me. I know there are. But what I'm really good at is reading the room. And I'm using this as a metaphor for magic, because you have to be aware of where you're at. You have to ground not only in space and in location, but ground in time. Not worry about, is my magic going to work? What's the effect in a week, in a month, in a year? It's not worrying about the past and dwelling on trauma. It's being here, present, now, in time and space, in your body, in this plane of existence. And then use that as a foundation to do what you need to do.
And I would like to point out that Mark has been speaking. I have been curling my toes, and it does bring you thinking down. Mm-hmm. And that's where you want to be if you're grounded, right? It's like you're looking down instead of, and yes, I would say that being able to read a room and using where the people are at before starting out is a wonderful talent. I'm not sure how you could teach otherwise. Okay, a question from Robin. Mm-hmm. I've noticed being around some people, you feel so drained and down, and some you feel so energized and positive. Would this be related?
Absolutely, Robin, and that's a great question. So I'm an empath, and I use that to my abilities. I use that as an advantage in my professional life and my personal life all the time. If you have a tool, why not use it, right? Why not use your advantages? So we're all connected energetically. So let's kind of start with that. And that's kind of the launch pad of where I'm going to go to answer your question, Robin. So if we're all connected energetically, and energy is shaped by, once again, intention, attention, and emotion, that when we're sharing energy with someone, we're also sharing everything that's related to it. So even like you're listening to me now, and right now, Robin, you and I are exchanging energy. You and I and Vicky and everyone in the audience are exchanging energy. Even the people who, if they're listening to this later, we're exchanging energy, okay? Now, with that, my energy is affecting yours. Just as if you have newborns in a hospital, one newborn cries, the other one is going to start crying until the whole maternity ward is going to be crying, and it's be littered with poor crying infants. Now, this speaks to how we're connected. Now, are they connected energetically? Are they all like super amazing empaths? No. Part of this is we're trained biologically through evolution to be a tribal culture. This is why there's this thing called like crowd psychology, and we talk about group psychology and the psychology of the masses. It's because we're tribal animals. So not only do we have the metaphysical aspect that we're connected energetically, and even I would argue the spiritual aspect as we come from the same spiritual source, but we also have this like biological connection, almost this resonance with each other's emotion. And all this gets connected, okay? All this is happening all at the same time. It's not happening bam, bam, bam. It's happening right now, immediately, all at the same time. So that being said, the best way to control your empathy, well, it's two actually things to control your empathy. One is centering in your emotions and saying, look, my emotions are in my body. This is why body awareness is so important. Why grounding is so key. Feeling your emotions in your body. Like when you feel good or bad, you feel things in your stomach, arguably in your second chakra. When you feel love, you feel it in your heart. You feel these sensations in your chest. You feel emotions in your body. The more you can connect to your body and to your emotions, the less susceptible you are to other people's emotions, okay? The other thing is shielding. And in one chapter, I literally have like almost an entire chapter just on different types of energetic shields that I've used and perfected over the years. And, I'll use perfected loosely because, I might like say, oh, man, I got a better technique. And then, of course, I'll share it. Now, on that being said, if I look at this psychologically, what shielding really is, it's establishing your space. It's saying, I own this space. I have a right to be here. And outside of the shield, that's your space. Those are your boundaries. I found this online, may the gods bless social media for this, that someone said in a meme, boundaries are the place where I can love me and you. And it's the same thing with shielding. It's demarking your reality. It's calling off space. Like in this circle, I control my reality. And that's really what a good shield is.
And I know that you talk about it in the energy sense, but even I know husbands always brings things home. And one day my husband brought home a costume Viking shield, and I was like, "What the heck am I supposed to do with this?" Well, a lot of stuff was happening in the household, so I just put it on the front door. Like, no more. This is
have that boundary, Vicky.
Oh, yeah. Vicky has learned a lot of boundaries. So, and Heidi.
Let me ask you: did you enchant the shield so it's a protection spell to get for your house?
Yes, I put my intentions there where I was. I didn't like light candles or anything, but I'm like, you are there to stop these things from happening.
Awesome.
This is it. You use what you have, right? And it is so important to keep us. I mean, when you talk about feeling the emotions in your body, I went through a phase where every time I felt something, I stopped and questioned myself where it was coming from. Sure. Like the stomach would start bothering me, and I'd be like, oh, that friend coming to visit the kids isn't very reliable. I hope they show up because they'll be disappointed. That kind of thing. I think it's important to do that from time to time. You're completely right. And Heidi agrees with the toe curling and says it was a great reminder, which is what we said earlier. You forget over the course of a day. Okay. Yeah. And you made me sad by talking about an entire nursery of crying babies.
Sorry. Okay. All those babies, Vicky, have happy homes, and those babies are doing great. In fact, those babies needed to cry so that they could transmit the energy of their need to help parents initiate themselves into parenthood. So their crying was a good thing at the end of the day, okay, Vicky? The babies are
Don't try to get yourself out of it. I'm holding you to it.
You see, here's my problem. I have a very amazing magical ability that's been passed on to me through time of putting my foot in my mouth. But then I also put my other foot in my mouth, and then I floss with the laces. So,
do we call that magic or just quick thinking? Sometimes it's very difficult when you're live, people to get the right words out, and sometimes mine are just a mess because I'm sitting here thinking and trying to speak and not I don't want to hurt anybody, right, by saying that. So you have to forgive anyone who's doing anything.
Absolutely.
Now about shielding, you said that I want to mention this about the book as well, that there are charts and graphs and illustrations, and I like big print and everything, so I can just take a quick look. And you use color, you use specific words. All of these things are right there in your toolbox, people, so that and it reminds you to put them there so you can just pull them out without thinking. I think that's the important thing about these things, right? Absolutely. Is that when you need them, they're there. So you suggested making a dictionary of those words for yourself to keep at hand. So Robin, I would like to see on Facebook your dictionary of shielding words by Monday. But I think that's why when we say practice, it's something that you do over and over again. And I think that's why these are important, so that when you're in the middle of a waiting room or something and you feel yourself get frustrated and all the sadness around you or whatever, you can just pull it out. And
exactly. I mean, personally, I'd rather mutter a couple of words under my breath or internally versus getting my athame or one of my other magical tools out and doing some crazy stuff. We're like, whoa, dude, what's going on here? So
So it is. Heidi says that she is a seeker of knowledge, tools, and techniques and needs some more for her toolbox. So we'll work on that for you, Heidi. We still have 30 minutes here, and there's just a whole lot more information to go out. So make that dictionary. And so when it comes back to grounding and knowing yourself, I was curious because I connected those. Should we, we forget who we are sometimes. So should we say, I'm curious or whatever? Would that be helpful if we came up with me words?
Absolutely. So, a lot of people, when they're first on this path, whether they're witches, pagans, occultists, what have you, a lot of schools will say, hey, you know what? I need to have like a magical name. And, I find that useful. I have myself, at this point, I collect magical names like someone would collect stamps or coins, to be quite honest. But, each of those, I know what. So imagine a gem, okay? A gem with many facets. Imagine like a 3-dimensional gem with lots of different facets, okay? And that gem is you. And you illustrate a different facet depending on the situation. For me, one facet might be me when I'm at work. Another one might be me if I'm practicing a certain magical modality. Another one might be me when I'm like writing poetry or something. I have all these different facets to who I am. I'm wearing black, not just because I'm witchy, but also I've been goth for like years. Like my goth favorites are fire. So, I've got all these different aspects of me. Okay. And in the same way, different names can speak to those. And so I would highly advocate every once in a while, actually 2 things. In the book, I talk about creating a sigil, like how to create a custom sigil. I would highly recommend creating a sigil that's just for you, like a custom sigil. And that sigil can do a couple things. One, it can help you remember yourself when you need to. So let's say you're doing some crazy trance work or crazy magic and you barely remember your name and you're speaking ancient Babylonian again. And you're like, whoa, what the heck's going on again? Man, I really hit that possession ritual a little too hard this time. Not that I'm speaking from personal experience at all. But that being said, having a personal sigil is like, oh, okay, I remember who I am. And just kind of go with the possession work real quick. One thing you do when you do heavy possession work is you ask, well, hey, what's your name? Where are you at? Who's the president? Do you know, all these questions, like ground them in time and space and in the moment. So that being said, having a personal sigil is very nice for remembering who you are. Okay. Even like in a way, it's almost like hitting the reset button, like saying, hey, I've done all this stuff. Let me hit the reset button and remember who I am. That being said, also, if you have like a dictionary of like magic words, so to speak, whether for protection, healing, or something, whether you're using techniques in my book to create custom ones, or you're using like other, you're collecting them from different sources, have different magical names, have different names for yourself. And then every once in a while, almost do a ritual of like reclaiming yourself. Look at your sigil and meditate with that. Feel that coreness, that intrinsicness of who you are, but also reciting those words to yourself is a way of like identifying the different facets and really recentering with the universe that you are. Just like, for example, Hecate has like over 150 names from like different sources, from the Chaldean oracles of Zoroaster to the Greek magical papyri and many more. But all those different names are facets of Hecate. They're not Hecate. They're just different facets. And the same thing for us.
No, and if you forget some of the things, it's going to cycle around in your life. You're going to meet somebody from that phase on the street. You're going to and run home and write it down, because once you get old, it's more difficult to remember. So spend a few moments with that person again. Yeah, we're many different people from the past, and yeah, I like that analogy. Okay, so we'll get down to the roots of this. We should have done it at the beginning. Oh.
One thing real quick. Another thing with your sigil, and this will answer a question in chat, is you can also use your sigil for personal magic. So let's say you're doing sigil magic and you make a sigil for a new job. You can add your personal sigil to it to really key things in. You can also put your sigil on things like if you're giving a candle to someone for healing, you can put your personal sigil in it. You can just, like the magical tools, I always have like my favorite magical tools at hand. So example, a Sharpie is one of my favorite magical tools. And if I wanted to, I could write like a healing sigil on a glass and give it to someone. And that would be a very quick and easy healing spell. Or, for example, I could write a sigil on my hand and I could do runes on my hand, and then I'm like doing all sorts of cool stuff. You know, if you have my business card for me in person, with my business card, I have my
Yes,
personal,
I put that up on
yeah,
stories. I was going to ask you, is that
I,
your personal
yeah, I
sigil?
have my that's my personal sigil, and but you can use that for everything. You can also use it to, like, shall I say, tag your own stuff, and you don't have to do the sigil with a Sharpie. You can do it energetically, and you could say, hey, you know, that's my magical tool. And for example, what I do when I'm remember to do it, actually, I don't remember always to do it, to be quite frank, but what I'll do is I will energetically put my sigil on an object that means something to me, and I'll create an energetic cord to that object, and that works almost like a bungee cord. Like, it'll bring that object to me, or if I lose it, it'll, like, I can follow the cord to it. But I have that. The cord is one thing, but the sigil, my personal sigil, is almost like the nail or the screw in that object, energetically speaking.
So we have that, Heidi. Those are the other things you can do. So I want to bring it back to we've talked about different things like my physical shield, but this book is all about not using tools, but using energy and visualization and that. Can you explain a little bit about that and why you think it's so important?
Absolutely. So even though I literally wrote the book Energy Magic about how to do magic just with energy, I have like a ton of tools. So if you see behind me, you know, I've actually got my altar. Let's see if I can. So right there, those are my mom's ashes. So hi, Mom. My mom's saying hi. And then I've got, like,
Hello, Mom.
altar. You know, I've got, you know, like down here in my cabinets, I've got like all sorts of magical tools that are fun. So I use tools. But that being said, I don't always remember to have all the tools I need. I don't even have, I can't carry this whole, like, magical cabinet with me everywhere. So I have to know how to do what the tools do with energy, so I have the availability to do it. So I don't think anyone should rely on their tools exclusively, because your tools get lost and get stolen. The gods might say, ha ha ha, you're going to have to, like, do some improv magic real quick, you know, to sharpen your skills. You never know. So the ability to do things without tools is absolutely essential. And the other thing is, relying on tools only is a weakness. And I'm not saying you're weak for doing it. No, I love tools. Trust me, I've got a collection of stuff you wouldn't believe. But what I mean by that is, if God has helped you, you're up against something nasty, and, you know, their practitioners do stuff against other practitioners, unfortunately. And someone says, you know what, Vicky, I'm going to do like a spell where you lose your magic tools so you don't have them. And I'm pretty sure that'll kind of break your confidence, because I know for a fact you use a lot of tools. That'd be devastating. That'd be crazy. I mean, who would do such a thing? But that being said, there's also the ability to create tools that you don't already have. If you say, hey, I need a tool to do X. I don't have a tool for X. Can I visualize what energy I need, what I need to do? Is there a process? Then you can create literally anything for energy, anything out of energy. I often will have to, what can I disclose? Okay, so let's say I'm doing healing work on someone, and let's say that they have bronchitis. And if I'm an herbalist of some skill, and usually I'll make a tea of someone with horehound, slippery elm, you know, for the throat, like horehound, slippery elm, a little bit of mint for flavor, some codonopsis, and some mullein. Okay, I'll like make a tea. Now, what if I can't find those herbs? What am I going to do? Well, if I kind of have those herbs, like if I know them, intimately, and I know what those energies are like, well, then I can call the energies of those herbs and do energy healing with, like, the flavors of those herbs, because I've, like, put the intention and the emotion of those herbs and their energetic signatures into that work I'm doing.
And also, you mentioned about the cost effectiveness that these
Yes.
things should be open to everybody. And
Absolutely. I can't tell you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate that sentiment, because let's face it, people can drop a lot into these things. And, you know, there's single moms, there's older people that just don't have those kind of resources.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, let's just go there and be quite honest. Like, how many, like, broke practitioners do we know? How many practitioners have had financial problems? Almost everyone. And And honestly, the practitioners that are like millionaires, you'll never meet. I guarantee you will never meet them. I've met maybe one or two, and they will never write a book. You will never see them. If they have a book, it's one book that might be a little obscure, but you'll never meet them because they're on a different level. Okay. And that being said, majority of us are struggling. So why spend money on a bunch of tools? And even though tools are cool and tools are useful for harnessing things and learning about different energies, tools are very useful. I'm not saying don't do tools. In fact, I'm working on a book combining like energy work with like more traditional tools of witchcraft so they can kind of supercharge and know how to work with the energy with your tools more effectively. So all that being said, we can't always get the tools we want. We can't always get the bright and shiny things that are going to harness our imagination, our willpower. We're going to have to do with what we have. I mean, this is why kitchen witchery is so awesome, because it's like you can take like the herbs in your kitchen and you can do some effective magic.
I love kitchen. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of kitchen witchery. So let's not be worried about the money. Let's not be worried about if you have the right tool or not. Do what you can do with what you have. Go ahead and use the tools, but I would advocate if you don't have a tool or if you feel like you're missing something, just put that energy into it and use the energetic tools to supplement what you already do.
It's not an aesthetic. It's, although we'd like it to be, it's a lifestyle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was at a store, visit at a local store, and there was this athame which looked like something out of like a fantasy novel, and it was like gorgeous and it was inlaid with gold. And I was like, man, I'm gonna feel like Merlin or something, like wielding this bad boy around in ritual. It's like, $200 that I needed to pay for bills. I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. But I want to say that what's nice about tools, though, real quick, is that another aspect of magic, if magic is shaped by our emotions, it's a couple of qualities I've noticed of really, really good practitioners and really good people who are spiritual, regardless of their spirituality, is that they cultivate a sense of wonder and awe. The sense of vision, this sense of imagination, the sense of anything can happen. And I find that extremely useful with magic because it allows our magic to do what it's got to do. And it's also good for the soul. I mean, the universe is an amazing thing. I mean, the fact that we're having this conversation is the result of so many choices that so many thousands of people have made. I mean, it's impossible that we're here having this conversation. It's sheerly impossible. The odds are against us, yet we're here. That's magic. So that being said, get the tools that speak to your childlike wonder, that make you feel cool, that make you feel powerful, that make you have fun, because those are going to help you harness your magic more effectively as well.
Totally off my question sheet, which we're not going to get through anyway. So, we'll just let it blow in the wind. Is that you did define play. Now, quite often, like if I get a new tarot deck, I will say to myself, I need to go play with this deck. But I don't want to say that out loud because I don't want to offend anybody, thinking, oh, they're not taking it seriously. But you gave a serious answer to that, which I appreciate. So do you want to explain why play is so important?
So play is important not only to harness awe and wonder, which is, I definitely argue, a component of good and effective magic, but it's also, we need to not take things so seriously. And I say this, I've had times, I've been that witch where I'm like, dang, I need to do an abundance spell, but I don't have like an orange or green candle and I'm out of cinnamon and I don't have any bay leaves. And I realized I was taking my practice too seriously, that I was relying on things that I needed to just let go of. And that's what we have to do. And once again, play helps us tap into that childlike wonder. Also, the sense that it is play. The fact that we incarnate in these certain bodies with these certain spiritual lessons, we're like children, okay? We're children that are at school. Maybe at best, maybe we're at kindergarten collectively, okay? At best. And in here in the galactic kindergarten, we have to acknowledge that things happen, that we can't take things so seriously. We have to laugh. We have to view it as play. Because if we don't, the consequences are just too grave. I mean, think about the people that take the game of life too seriously. They are very susceptible to doing extreme acts of cruelty. And you have cruelty, apathy, misogyny, racism. You have all these things because people are taking certain things so seriously. But by having play, we can all be children together.
Well, and if you just, I mean, sometimes you can just look around you and the world is a playground. Like, oh, they're being high school over there with their
Absolutely.
gossiping and their numbers, and it just takes all that tension out of it.
Absolutely. And I think play is also essential because it's practice. And what I mean by that is for every technique in this book, I have it up a dozen times, a dozen minimum, probably more. I experiment. I play with magic. I'll even say, "Man, I really love this technique," and I'm playing with it, and then I'll say, "I can't do it. It's not going to work. I can't be so full of myself that I have to like think my tool is going to be so good but use it to the fact that I'm in love with my own process and my own creativity and my own smugness, as opposed to like saying, look, I got to be humble. I have to like put my ego aside. I have to put this thing down. I have to maybe even start from scratch."
Don't you think a lot of that has to do with money, though? It all comes back to money. Like, if I create this first and it's mine, then I can make money, and then it has to be right. I can't grow because I have to go back to that. I think money has a lot to do with that.
I agree with you. And we have to try to get out of that mindset collectively. I mean, even if it's a fact that, like I'm doing some crafts right now that, are going to make me some money. I do believe, but I'm really just trying to like have some fun. But that being said, I have to almost put that aside, and try not to think of like money as a factor. I have to like think about the practice. I have to think, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I'm just going to let it go. And that's hard. That's hard in our society. We're a very materialistic society. We're very results driven, and I'm very results driven, as a person. But that being said, some of you just have to put things aside and say, look, I can't do this just for money. I have to do it because I enjoy it. And the other
Well,
thing
eating is important, so you should
yeah,
get
I'm
some money.
not saying don't get your basic needs met, but also, like there's a practitioner. I actually started a book. I'm not going to go into the whole specifics, but I started a book and I got maybe, I don't know, 10,000 words into it. And so give you some perspective, my book's like 260, 70 pages or something. And it's 65,000 words. I got 10,000 words into this book. And then I saw that someone was coming out with the exact same book. Okay. Like in the same subject, we had some very similar things. And I said, you know what? They're actually doing it better than I am. And I put that book aside and I stopped working on it. I went on like another project. And so even if someone is doing that thing, it doesn't matter. Do your thing. I'll do my thing. That thing is going to bear fruit. It's going to grow corn one way or another. And we can't worry about whether, now this is not just about money, it's about ego. And by ego, I mean sense of self, more in the Eastern sense than the Western. And we have to look at our sense of self in the sense that, hey, you know what I do is going to go where it needs to go. It's not just having faith in yourself, having faith in the universe and saying, hey, I'm special. I'm doing a special thing, but hey, they're doing a special thing too. I don't have to always be the special person that does all the things. I don't have to save the world by myself. I can do it with a team.
Yeah, codependency has a lot to answer for.
Absolutely. I've got like a 15-year spreadsheet of like all my life goals and all the books. I literally could tell you, if you pick a year, I can tell you what books I'm writing.
Well, let's do that now, because that was going to be a question. So
all right, let me get out that spreadsheet. But what I'm saying for that is about, I don't know. I think I'll have to look at the exact number, but like at least 50 books I'm co-writing, and I'm doing that for two reasons. One, I'm cool. I know I'm cool, but I'm not the coolest person in the room on like a certain subject. So like I'm working on a book with spirit communication, but it's not for practitioners. The audience is, I read the room. There's plenty of great books about spirit communication for practitioners. This book is for the average person, and it's a combination of spirit communication and using spirit communication to get over grief. So my co-writer is someone who was trained in the spiritualist church. He has some serious mediumship gifts, but she's also a therapist. And I'm not a therapist yet. It's on my life goals, but I'm not there yet. But by partnering someone who has like the expertise to make, what could have been to make I would have had a good book doing it on my own, but it's going to be an awesome book. And I'm going to help a lot more people and reach a better audience because I'm willing to put my ego aside and work with someone. So I can tell you about a third of the books I'm planning to write, I'm co-writing with people. And it's not just to make a better book. It's not just to help more people. It's not just to like, take advantage of their expertise, but it's also live an example because we don't have to do it alone. We are stronger together. There's so many practitioners who are like, man, I got this technique and it's so cool. And I'm the only one who does it. It's like, that's great. Share it. Let's all learn because I was going to say by teaching, I've learned so much.
Well, and we have this thing about intellectual properties, and it's like, why can't we just share that? And also, if I come up with an idea for a name or whatever, I will throw it on the internet, and 70,000 people, guaranteed, no matter what it is, have already come up with it. So you're not going to be the first or the last. I just wanted to point out that Rosemary and Heidi both agree with the play theory. Okay, so we can all get together and have a play date. That would be that would be good. Okay, so I did want to broach, because this is all about conversation and the fact that people can have it with disagreement and still get along. I've almost forgotten about the crying babies. So anyhow,
they're happy babies. They're happy babies, Vicky. Very loved.
You did mention that when we listen to people, which I think is a skill that sometimes gets forgotten, when we listen to people, we build their energy. We empower them. How does that work?
So here's how that works. And I'll have to write this more into like a later book. So I like to call this the alchemical marriage. And it's not just about romantic relationships. It's about every connection. So what happens, let me back up to give some context. Okay. So one technique in my book, I talk about looking at someone's energetic body. And the exercise is very simple. You look at that person, but then you imagine them as a body of white light. Then you close your eyes and you see them in your mind's eye, that they're a body of white light. Then you open them, you look at them, you look at it internally, and you have this, you're able to like really hone this ability to see someone as a body of white light, okay? Excuse me. Now, if you notice, if you go further with the exercise, you'll see dark spots. And these are parts that need healing. It could be connected to trauma, it could be physical injuries, all sorts of reasons. There's cracks or tears or wounds in the aura, or the energetic body, I should say. So all that being said, what I noticed, and what one of my early energy healing teachers taught me, they said, Mark, whatever you do when you're healing, if you're visualizing someone's body of white light, fill in the dark with white light. And I was like, okay, why? Why not just focus on the dark? They're like, because you're giving attention to it. You're giving energy to it, and you're making it worse. So there's 3 ways, 4, but really 3 ways that you can kill someone with magic without lifting a finger. I could do it right now, and you wouldn't even know I'm doing it. 3 ways you can kill someone with magic, just like that. It takes time. It's not instantaneous, but you can do it very easily. One of them is to visualize someone's dark spots and give them so much intention and so much energy that the dark spots get worse. And you can literally give someone cancer by doing that. Now, anybody out there, don't try doing it on me. I'm already got protected against that. So
yeah, this whole episode is don't try this at home, kids. Okay.
Don't try that one at home. So I'm saying that because energy, the more you pay attention to something, the more energy it has. So look at our news. The more we give energy and attention, remember energy shaped by intention, attention, emotion. The more we give attention to the bad, the worse it gets. The same thing with our magic, the same with ourselves. If you're in a relationship, if you're in a relationship, and I've had romantic relationships like anyone, I've noticed in my romantic relationships, if I'm always thinking about the bad things they do, if I'm always thinking about their negative traits, I'm going to see them more, and that's going to take up more, shall we say, psychic real estate than any of the good things. So I make a choice to look at the good in people, to look at good in my, anyone I'm in a romantic relationship with, my friends, my associates, people on the street. I make a choice to pay attention to the white light in them, the positive parts of them. Because if I'm paying attention to them, a couple things are happening. One, I'm making those parts stronger. And if they're making those parts stronger, And if my interaction, if I can have a positive interaction, they're paying attention to the goodness in me, then that's going to get stronger in me. Then I can pay attention to the better parts of them. And then what I'm calling the alchemical marriage is this positive feedback loop of seeing the positive in someone and it being returned. Yes, everyone says, oh, I'm an empath. Pop quiz, spoiler alert. Everyone's an empath. Spoiler alert, everyone can do magic. It's just people have different talents and inclinations to it. So all that being said, if we tap into the natural empathy that everyone has, you can create these positive feedback loops. You can create better things, and honestly, you can create a better world.
And on the other hand, I think the world has gotten quite good at shutting people down, whether it's with grammar or knowledge or whatever. And when people are shut down, they become angry because they're not having that natural flow of communication and things.
Right.
So if you listen, that gives them all that time
Exactly.
of power. And you're sitting there, you're drinking the coffee. What else do you have to do, people? Okay, we are going to, there's like a whole bunch of this sexy stuff like Ouija boards and stuff I want to get into. So Mark, have you enjoyed yourself? Would you come back another day to discuss those things with us?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can't see it you can see it in like it's in the background, but there's my spirit board behind my mom.
So he's got it, because Mark's not going to tell you don't play with this, all right? Which is a very interesting alternative conversation than you usually have about Ouija boards. So I'm all ready for that. Mark, so you're working with people on things. What are the next few books that may be coming out, or do you have one right now?
Yeah, so a couple things. One, I'm taking the chapter on energetic cord cutting, and I'm actually expanding that into a book just on cord cutting. And then the flip side of cord cutting is working with cords, maintaining cords, and creating healthy cords. So I have a whole book of cord cutting that's 75% done. I have a book called Voices Our Pagan Elders. I interviewed a lot of pagan elders in the community, and that's all my royalties for that are going to a pagan elder assistance fund with my nonprofit, the Invisible College, which is designed to help the magical community. So this pagan elder assistance fund, if someone needs money for prescription or down payment on something, or like whatever, they're behind on rent or something, they're going to get evicted, they'll have this fund. And so I interviewed people like Oberon Zell. I've got Belladonna Laveau from Aquarian Tabernacle Church. I've got Janet Farrar and Gavin Bone. And Janet Farrar, if you don't know, she is hilarious. Oh my God. She's the funniest woman on the planet. I adore her. I've got all these different elders, and it's not just about, hey, tell me, it's not about tell me a magical technique. It's like, hey, where did you grow up? Where'd you get your perspective? What helped you become the person you are? If you die, and eventually we're all going to die, then all they're going to have is this book of your interviews. What wisdom would you pass on to the next generation? So I have, over a dozen interviews with that. I've got Ivo Dominguez Jr. Ivo is amazing. Oh my God, I love that man. And I've got like all these different people, talk about their wisdom and their life experience. So that's another book I'm working on. I'm working on a book on Medusa, actually. So there's actually not any pagan book or magical book about the worship of Medusa. So that's another project I'm working on. I've got my book on spirit communication. Sorry, I got to go to the spreadsheet for this year. I'm not even joking. And then I've got some fiction I'm doing, and then I have a play project that when that's done, that'll be interesting. And then next year, I'm actually about to do a whole bunch of internal and intense shadow work in preparation of perfecting techniques for a shadow work book. Because
I knew that was coming. I knew it.
Because there's not a good book on shadow work for practitioners. I'm also be co-writing a business magic book. I've got all sorts of other stuff too. So some other stuff I'll keep a little secret right now. But I've got fiction books, and kind of in the vein of Dion Fortune, who wrote the psychic book was on psychic self-defense and death. And God, that woman was freaking amazing. She wrote fiction to illustrate the magical principles. So on that note, I'm writing fiction, and with all the fiction I'm doing, I'm using techniques that you can do in the real world with real magic. So there's going to be no shooting fireballs, no lightning. It's going to be like real magic, and that's what the people in the fiction books will be doing to illustrate like how these things can work out in an example.
And this stuff is important. I always tell people, one of the reasons I do these shows is because when people are writing, you can't pick up a pagan portal without getting an idea for a story.
Absolutely.
So I would love to, when you have one done, or if you have one done, I would love to read it.
I'll let you know.
And see where we're going with that. And you also, I wanted to note that some of the proceeds from this book are going to the Invisible School.
Yes. So
I mean,
10% of all my royalties. I'm probably going to do more, to be quite frank. But 10% of all my book royalties from now until even after I'm gone are going to go to the Invisible College. And half of that, so 5% of my entire book money is going straight to the Medusa Fund, which is a fund for domestic violence shelters, women's circles, and things to empower women. And the other half of that is just going straight to the Invisible College. And, I'll be doing some pretty cool stuff with that. And, once I finish, I still have a little bit more paperwork to finish because there's a lot of paperwork. I'll have like transparent accounting. I'll say, wow, this is how much Mark earned on this book. This is how much is going to the Invisible College. You can see how little pagan authors actually make.
Any authors. This is one of those universal things.
Do not quit your day job, kids. If things don't do at home, do not quit your day job to be a pagan author. Do not. Unless you're like, Goddess bless them, like Matt Oren, who's on like thousands of books. I mean, for the majority of us, don't do it. Keep your day job. So
yeah, they're all fun projects. They're all play projects. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I'm laughing with you, Mark. Okay. I'm not laughing at you. Before we go, yes, there's a prayer at the end of this book that I find delightful. Could you do it for us now?
Yeah, actually, since I have my copy handy. All right, this is the prayer at the end of the book. Final note. May you clear away the wreckage of the past and embrace the new destiny. When your life is at its darkest, realize what a light you are. May the gods and ancestors bless you and keep you. May you grow strong and wise, and may good fortune only be just a little magic away from you.
See, that is lovely. So we're going to say goodbye for now. And hopefully, best of luck with all the upcoming projects.
Thanks.
And getting to mark things off your spreadsheet there. Okay. We'll talk later, Mark. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for having me, Vicky, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Oh, I bounced you out that way. Okay, and for everybody else, if you're having a holiday this weekend, happy holiday to you and enjoy. And if you're not having a holiday, just go ahead and make one up yourself. Celebrate the day. Here we go. Until then, when I see you next time, may your coffee be hot and your story sweet. Thanks for listening, everyone.